Hi, this is Alexander Gottwald from alexandergottwald.com, and today I want to discuss with Brian the question why it's not possible to live a spiritual life without also living a political life.
Well, I don't think one can split the two. We have created barbaric political systems by our own apathy, lack of wanting to be involved, or thinking that we're too small to have any effect. No, each one of us has power. And I think in German there's a very big difference between Kraft, which is very much personal power, and Macht, which is the brutality mainly applied to regimes. Because 95% of terrorism or more is state terrorism. In the sense, we are responsible. If we are paying our regimes taxes, which they demand under threat, then we are responsible and we are part of the problem. We are the ones paying the murderers, they call it an army or whatever else. We are, by default, the murderers. If I pay a hitman to take somebody out, the responsibility is of both parties. The same goes for the regimes. The taxpayers are responsible for all the death and destruction, the refugees, stateless people, and all the horrific things going on in the world, including death by starvation, etc. And it's a lack of education, because we're all indoctrinated from pre-birth to whatever degree. And we have to get out of this insanity. This is, I would say, classical form of insanity. I don't take responsibility for my life. You're abandoning yourself to the extent in a very different way, for example, to the people who abandon themselves to some sort of guru who's sitting up above them and everybody else is below, in a psychological and power-tripping sense, or to the extreme with the Jim Jones and the other lunatics. You know, I'm worth nothing, therefore you can do what you want with me. This is total abandonment of personal responsibility of yourself as an independent, sane human being. And we've all been indoctrinated to do this, whether it's to a regime, a religious institution, or any other form of total brainwashing, obedience. And humanity has been on a 90-degree slope downwards for the last many centuries.
Thank you very much, Brian. Yeah, I would definitely agree on that. And I would like to add that it's said from the days of the Roman Empire that divide et impera, so to say separate and rule, is the secret law which is applied to everything, and of course it is also applied to human minds. And I guess this is where we have to get our power back, to say, okay, I don't have to decide whether I'm a political or spiritual or scientifically interested person. I am the one consciousness that is, and from that I am on this way to incarnate this consciousness on this planet. And if I don't do it, it's my responsibility. So I would like to again mention this process, self-identity through Ho'oponopono, which is in a very powerful way, for example, leading us back to what we are, and that we are responsible for all we're doing and for all that happens to us. Because, of course, for example, if we pay a government, so-called, to rule us, and then they do things we don't like, who's to blame? So I would like to get to the point here, what might be a sort of a vision for humanity for these days, and for especially every individual on this planet. How to proceed, how to go on these days, taking responsibility.
Yes, I agree. The one thing I disagree, at least on the wording, we do not pay regimes to rule us. We pay them to govern for us. To rule and to govern are two totally different categories, legally, psychologically, and every other way. Rule means I have the power over you. To govern means you tell me we need infrastructure, we need these things to make a better living. You're paid to govern, not to rule. And coming back to this divide and conquer thing, one of the more recent very big brainwashing schemes, for example, has been in the US, where, oh no, I'm an African American or an Afro-American, I'm a Latino American. No, if you're an American, all it means is that you happen to be born or you're a citizen of that country. The rest is brainwashing to fragment the societies. In other words, you're making these different communities discriminate against themselves, which is a very neat little mindfuck game. And this has been done historically in different ways. It's just one of the more recent ones which has spread. And this is it. We have to get away from this. So what? We're different. Great. Different doesn't make better or worse. It's simply something else. Whether it's a different culture, a different food, a different clothing, whatever. It's different. Nothing more, nothing less. We have to get back to learning to become human beings and not these brainwashed creatures that we have become as a society worldwide, or societies. Allowing these barbarities to happen. Oh, it's happening to this other micro group. You know, there's always a minority somewhere. We start with that. And then we go to another group. And then we've got most of the groups. And then we apply it to the whole nation. This is the same trick. It's been used for thousands of years. Why don't people want to look at it and say, which way are we going? Towards extinction? Or we're going to learn about it to become human beings. And I think the world has come to the crisis point. It has been for a long, long time. Whether one likes to refer to Atlantis, for example, as a myth or a reality, they basically extinguished themselves with their high-tech equipment and their abuse and misuse. So we're at the same point. We have a choice. And that is the basic human story. We have a choice. We stop paying our politicians. 100 people, 500 people will go to jail. 1,000 people, no way. It's the only peaceful way to stop and to start creating a new way of living and saying, we no longer support this because every other method involves violence. And that's the reality. And there's going to be a lot of violence because a lot of people are too afraid even to do things in a peaceful way. It worked for Gandhi, it worked for a lot of people. And people like Johann Galtung, for example, working for agreement, cooperation, and not for division. And we need to get further along this road very, very quickly.
Yes, I definitely agree on that. And I think it's very important that we start to take responsibility for the earth as well. And that means, to me, that it's a good idea to get a piece of land where you can do your own gardening, where you can do your own living independently, and so to say, become also independent of money and other things that might crash during this transition to a new society. So it's up to us to wake up, to do what our hearts tell us to do, and to stop trying to stay asleep and give our responsibility away.
Yes, I agree. The only way is self-sufficiency with cooperation or interdependency to a certain extent, because a financial system of some sort has to be totally revised, but will probably still exist in a totally different form. But coming back to the basics, where this last experiment 10 years ago, for example, on the Argentinian economy, it's probably the most sophisticated system was built up by the people on the bartering system. And when the next crash comes, they will be the least harmed because they've built up their system through the brutality of the manipulations of the mafia. They're now trying the same game with Greece, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Ireland, and everywhere else. It's simply psychoterror games. How do the people react as individuals, as nations? No, it doesn't work getting into violence and burning cars and buildings. No, you simply get rid of your regime. No, there are sane and peaceful ways to do this, like stop paying taxes, vote everybody out. But the regimes have been preparing over the last 10 years and more with extreme violence by their police forces. Why is it called a police force or an armed force? Force is the operative word. So if we are paying barbarians to brutalize us, we're back to our responsibility. Take it from there.
Yes. And another thing out of this divide and conquer thing is that we are told so often, or don't think about this, or don't talk about this. You don't have a clue. You're not an expert. And there are so many experts these days telling us what medication we should take, or how we should deal with our money, or what we should do spiritually, and so all this, it's in my view very important to understand this, that all this is part of this game, that we are obliged, we are asked to feel small and stop thinking and sort of fade out and let other people do the job, which means then we don't have any influence. And there are studies, for example, that this medicine that is taught nowadays in university isn't scientific at all. 80% of what they do in the modern medicine isn't based on science. But, for instance, they call every natural healer that not non-scientific or something like that. And on the other hand, there are so many people then against the medical doctors, and so all this is also another side of this game, and it's also the only way out is taking responsibility for your own health, thinking about what are you eating, what are you thinking about, what are you giving attention to. Is it really a good idea to watch television all day? And all this kind of stuff. What do you think about this?
Yes, absolutely. When we're being indoctrinated through TV and through other media, for example, traveling in Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, when I've been wandering down the street, or maybe in the tourist office, there have been manifestations by a lot of women's groups especially, but other groups as well, against violence. And then when I talk to them and I say, but if you want to stop violence, firstly, stop your kids playing war games, throw your TV sets out, because you're just being brainwashed. It's violence all the way. You have your TV sets on, which are visually, and especially with high sounds as they are in South America, at full volume. It's brutality. It's actually legally called assault. The same goes for any of the daily activities which are affecting our nervous systems. If we're bombarded by so much visual and sound pollution, our whole nervous system goes out of order. And of course, repetition brings in the indoctrination. Everybody says it's this, or it's that, or it's the other. Oh, you have to believe somebody because they wear a white coat or whatever. The Chinese, the Mayans, and all the ancient civilizations for hundreds of thousands of years have used natural medicines. Today, they extract that, convert them into chemical or chemically based things which are totally poisonous. So how did the human beings for thousands and thousands of years remain more or less healthy through natural medicine? So why is everybody against it? Because the pharmaceutical mafia, supported by UN and the other terrorist organizations, demand this. Because if you poison the people, you have complete control in every sense.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, what do you think about this idea of getting your own piece of land and doing some peaceful gardening there?
Well, I think just as a meditation for a start, it's very healthy and sane. The only problem, of course, is in Northern Europe or other freezing countries. It's very difficult to grow your own crops. And also in a lot of places, it started in the US, it's starting in UK and various other places I've heard about, where the police just come in and say you don't have permission to grow your own food, and they bulldoze it and brutalize the people concerned. So you're not allowed to drink raw milk, you're not allowed to choose what foods you put in your body. You're not allowed to choose what medicines you cure yourself with. What sort of human beings are we? Who gives any politician, regime, or so-called Übermenschen the right to dictate to me what I do with my life. Back to, I claim my own responsibility, and what happens is also my responsibility.
Yes, definitely. And I think that's the same thing which you mentioned lately, that if many people would stop paying taxes, they can put some people to jail, they can put some more people to jail, but then it's done. And it would be the same thing with the gardening. They can bulldoze maybe 100 gardens in a city, maybe 500, but then at a certain point it just wouldn't work anymore. And that's the same thing like Gandhi did it, like some other people already proved us that it's working. It's just that we have to claim our personal identity and our rights evolving from this identity. And well, I think it's really high time to wake up and to do what is necessary. And the first thing of all is to take responsibility, to look at your life, to see where you are, to see how you got there, and then to see what is the way out.
Yes, basically it's getting over this fear. You know, this is the latest version of this fear was the 9/11 terrorist act. You know, the third in a series. Yeah, you terrorize people, and then they say, yes, take away my human rights, but not my TV set. It's fear, fear, fear. Whether it's through religious institutions which have nothing to do with belief systems, any control system, and this is now reinforced where people are terrorized, and they allow themselves to be terrorized. You go to an airport, you're searched. You don't have this right. You don't have any rights. No, I'm a human being. My rights are mine. End of movie.
Yeah, Brian, that's another very interesting topic, this 9/11 thing, which is really sort of mysterious, how this could have happened at least 3 times in the past century. We had a 9/11 in Germany. It's called Reichskristallnacht. It happened in 1938. And there was another 9/11 in Chile I guess it was in 1973, I'm not sure, but it was the killing of Allende and the institution of then Pinochet as a dictator who was completely financed by the CIA. And the third 9/11, that's what people usually think about when you hear 9/11 these days, was the destruction of the World Trade Center. So what is your idea? Why are these things happening on certain dates?
I know nothing about numerology and other things. It's just something for people to study. But it's in effect different forms of state terrorism and false flag. Because 9/11, London, Madrid, Bali, these are all only the very, very recent manifestations of how to control people through terrorism. You know, this whole movie when suddenly some sort of Bin Laden appears was with the bombing of the embassies in Nairobi and Dar es Salaam. And that's when the Bin Laden the new bearded terrorist appeared. It was more or less when the Soviet Union was due to collapse within a few years later, and also whatever. It was due to happen, and therefore we need a new enemy. So this time it's now the Muslims. And if we look at colonialism historically, and my history is not that brilliant, but the only colonialists who did not impose their language, their will, their customs by force were the Moors who invaded Spain. They brought civilization to Spain, whether it's through architecture, agriculture, and all the arts and sciences. There was no discrimination whether you had a religion, whatever it may be, or no religion. And when Isabel la Católica came to power, everything started changing. And who rescued a vast number of these people, including the Jewish community, the non-believers, those who refused to convert to Catholicism, was the Muslim Sultan of Turkey. He sent Istanbul. Thank you. He sent his personal fleet of ships to rescue people from the assault of the Catholics of the Vatican. So, what is the sudden anti-Islam mind trip? It's a game. There were no Muslims except maybe a few scapegoats involved in 9/11 or any of these other incidents, major and minor. There's always this theatre behind of the puppet masters. How did the Polish regime, an entire regime, disappear through some sort of plane accident where there were no bodies, no luggage, no anything? And nobody's even asking, how can an entire regime disappear off the face of the earth and there's no investigation? It's part of the same game. And if you don't want to look at it, you pay the price. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much, Brian. Well, that's basically it. If we don't want to look at it, we pay the price. And if we finance the guys who do the bad things, we pay the price also. So let's wake up. Let's peacefully stand up for our human rights and make a new earth. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.